Good evening, Spirit and Truth Sanctuary, and happy Wednesday to everybody. We're so glad that you've chosen to join us tonight. We are in, I think this is week 5 of our new series, Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now. It has been amazing. There has not been a week that we have not walked away thinking, wow, that was even a piece, a new part of it, a new aha moment. And so we're glad that you're here. If this is your first time tonight joining us with our Wednesday night discussion series, welcome to Spirit and Truth Sanctuary. We are a church, but we're also a spiritual community, an inclusive community of truth seekers and people who don't connect as much to their temporary label as they do to their eternal spirit. And so we are black, we are white, we are straight, we are gay, we are Christian, Muslim, atheist. We are Democrat and Republican. We are Americans and Mexicans and Europeans and Africans. We are all of those things, but we are absolutely none of those things. We are spirits having a human experience and expression. And so we try to live by the words of Jesus the Christ when he said to worship, or encourages us to worship God in spirit and in truth. And that's beyond label. And so we're glad you're here. We know that change is the only constant in the universe. We are all changing, but we change at our own pace and in our own space. And so that's kind of a way for us to say that we're going to offer you a lot of food tonight. Eat what you can. If it's not something that you're ready to digest, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not truth or that it's not beneficial or won't be helpful at some point in your journey. Sometimes when we first hear truth, it's a little shocking. One of my mentors says this, that the truth that sets you free might piss you off first, and that's exactly how he says it. And that's okay. Sometimes truth is planted as a subconscious seed, and then in another season it's watered and it comes to life, and you think, man, I heard that somewhere 10 years ago. Sometimes that's the case as well. So we are aware tonight that religion tells you what to think, and spirituality teaches us how to think. And so we certainly don't come tonight to tell you what to think, but to teach you maybe how to think. This is the power of now, and we've been reviewing the idea and entertaining the idea that we are not our thoughts, we are not even the thinker of our thoughts, but we are the observer of the thinker who is having the thoughts. That's 3 different levels of awareness that we've been talking about. It's an amazing journey in our mind. As we're focusing on the observer's ability to see the thoughts that the thinker is thinking, but to see it without judgment, without filter, but just to be in the awareness of the thoughts. That way, judgment and filters and condemnation or ego, none of those ideas, culture, indoctrination, your past, your belief system, none of that gets in the way of just the process of the realization that you're not your thoughts. You're not even the thinker of your thoughts. You're not your mind. You are the observer of this process happening. And so that's the exercise we've been in, showing our ability to become higher and bigger and greater than our thoughts. And so, as always tonight, we encourage your comments. We'd love to have a discussion at the end. And every week has been an amazingly powerful discussion. Really, we just use this teaching as kind of a leaping off point, a catalyst to incite a deeper this discussion between us. And so we encourage all of your comments. Go ahead and post those early. And then if you'd like to, you can download tonight's notes. They should be available in your event description. And you can just click right on that and follow along with us tonight as we go through the teaching. One thing that we'd like to do tonight as we begin, because we're going to change the affirmation a little bit after tonight, I'd like to read again last week's, I think it was actually the last 2 weeks' affirmation. And this really is something that's been powerful, something I've saved for future teaching. And so I'm going to read it to you. If you'd like to read it out loud at home, we certainly would encourage that. Last week's affirmation says this: I am not my thoughts. I am not the thinker of my thoughts. I am the observer, witnessing the thinker, thinking the thoughts. Tonight, I am not the voice in my head or any limitation of an inherited collective cultural conditioning, religious indoctrination, or even my past experiences. This week, I will mind my mind, free my mind, be free of my mind, and surrender to practice no mind. Wow, that's a lot of different levels of being aware of your mind and the thinker and the observer. What it's showing us is that you are not your thoughts. You are the spirit capable of having thoughts and then capable of changing those thoughts as we choose to see what we're creating, And then hopefully, if it's not something that we like, not to put an evil or good sign on it, not to put a holiness or sinful sign, judgment on it, but just say, it's not something that's serving me. I'd like to recreate, and we can do that by our divine image and likeness. And so we encourage you tonight, close those eyes for just a minute, take a big deep breath. We'll take one more moment, big deep breath. As we take and give that breath, we choose tonight to celebrate the beginner's mind. We choose to connect to the idea that faith comes by hearing and not by having heard. We choose tonight to surrender to the teaching of Jesus the Christ, who said, if you'd like to enter the kingdom, you must become like little children. And so tonight, we give permission to be curious, to question, to be inquisitive. We give more than just permission, God. We give a command to our ego tonight to empty yourself, empty our cup. We don't come full, we come empty, ready to hear and listen. We get rid of all filters, all things that we know, and we surrender to the moment of knowing and hearing and seeing tonight. For it's in the name and nature of Jesus the Christ. We say, let there be light. Amen. And so it is. All right, let's read together our invitation of truth. In Spirit and Truth, we call this a prayer of surrender, but it's really how we invite, let the universe know we are open and available, Holy Spirit, for you to speak truth to and through us tonight. Come on, let's read it together. Spirit of truth, carry me where you will. Bring to me what you will. Take from me what you will. Awaken in me what you will. The Christ man is around me. The Christ mind is in me. The Christ power flows through me. And the Christ mystery exists as me. I believe it. I perceive it. Now I receive it. I am surrendered. Amen. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Tonight's lesson or teaching, hopefully tonight's discussion, is entitled Emotion, the Body's Reaction to Your Mind. And so I was going through the teaching today, and then I make some little personal notes as I do that. Follow along with us, and then we're going to stop and talk a little bit, and then at the end, hopefully we'll open it up to get a little bit of wisdom from everybody tonight. Emotion, the body's reaction to your mind. Mind, in the way I use the word, is not just thought. It includes your emotions, as well as all unconscious, mental, emotional, reactive patterns. Let me read those 5 or 6 words again right here. It includes its emotions, as well as all unconscious, mental, emotional, reactive patterns. Notice, it's not just mental and emotional reactions. Sometimes these reactions come from an unconsciousness or an unconscious awareness or lack of awareness of what's happening. Okay. Emotion arises at the place where the mind and body meet. It is the body's reaction to your mind. Or you might say a reflection of your mind in the body. Listen to that powerful mind-body connection. A reaction or a reflection of your mind manifesting itself in your body. And so we know that most of us are, majority of our bodies are water, and that there is a powerful reaction to emotion even in water. And so as we are cellular beings, those emotions do affect the way that our bodies react and respond. For example, an attack thought or a hostile thought will create a buildup of energy in the body that we call anger. The body is getting ready to fight. The thought that you are being threatened physically or even psychologically causes the body to contract, and this is the physical side of what we call fear. Research has shown that strong emotions even cause changes in the biochemistry of the body, whether it's endorphins, whether it's joy, or whether it's negativity releasing things in the body. Scientific research has shown that it does affect our bodies. These biochemical changes represent the physical or material aspect of the emotion. Of course, you are not usually conscious of all your thought patterns, and it is often only through watching your emotions that you can bring them into awareness. Okay, so we've talked about having thoughts, thinking the thoughts, and then observing ourselves thinking the thoughts and not having judgment of them, but just to be in awareness of them. And so tonight we're going a little step further and to be aware of how those thoughts affect our body. I'm having the thoughts. Now is there a biochemical release of how those thoughts are affecting the emotion, or the way thoughts reflect in our body is what we're calling emotion tonight. Why am I feeling this? Do I want to continue to react this way? And for my body to experience this mind-body connection in this way. Okay. The more you are identified with your thinking, your likes and your dislikes, judgments and interpretations, which is to say, the less present you are as the watching consciousness, the stronger the emotional energy charge will be, whether you are aware of it or not. And so again, we get an encouragement tonight from the author to just be aware of the connection, that it is happening, but not to be married to a like or a dislike, a judgment, an interpretation, some strong connection to one emotion or thought or not, just to be in the awareness of it. Okay. If you cannot feel your emotions, if you are cut off from them, you will eventually experience them on a purely physical level as a physical problem or a symptom. A strong unconscious emotional pattern may even manifest as an external event that appears to just happen to you. Now, we're going to stop here and talk for a minute. A strong, unconscious, I'm unaware of this, emotional pattern, I'm continuing to feel these emotions, may even manifest themselves as an external event. So something happening in my mind, something happening in my body, in the way that my body reflects my mind. Now it's happening on the outside. It's an event, but it appears, and that's a strong word there, appears, which means it's not just you, but it appears that this thing is just happening to you. Okay, and so we ask questions like, why is this happening to me? Why do good things happen to bad people? Why do bad things happen to good people? Where is God? How could God let this happen? One of the things that I've learned in my journey is that we will never fully wake up to our divine creative and creative process if God fixes everything for us. Okay, we have to be aware that we are creating our life by our thoughts. And so God is not really at work in any of that other than giving us the capacity to create. And so where is God? Why did God? How could this happen? Sometimes that question is answered very easily, that God in me created that. I thought that. I believed that. I chose to speak that, and I began to manifest that. One of the ways that we know that we're really unconsciously creating our lives is when we ask the question, not only why is this happening to me, but why is this happening to me again? When you're really asleep to your creative power, you say things like, why is this happening to me over and over and over and again? I've changed my friends. I've changed the person that I'm in love with. I've changed I've changed my job, my church. I've gotten my family out of my life. But this thing is still following me. And so the common denominator, it's not just you, but it's the thought process that you're carrying into different ideas. I got a devotion 2 mornings ago from Miss Pat Coppin, and it was talking about we don't need new landscapes, we need new eyes. And so we can trade a job, a church, a spouse, whatever, a country, but if you don't see things differently, then your consciousness is just going to follow you, and you're going to continue to ask the unconscious question, why is this happening to me again and again? Why is it happening? So some of us create unconsciously, some of us create subconsciously, kind of more on cruise control. We're not in blame, we're not in shame. We're almost just kind of like a spectator. Life is happening, que sera, sera, whatever will be, will be. That's kind of a cruise control way of creation. And then others are waking up to the conscious level of creativity. When things show up in our lives, we're not that surprised by them. Occasionally we might be surprised, but for the most part we go, yeah, that's not a big surprise. I thought that, I believed that, I entertained that, I had that connection in my mind, and I understand that just manifested itself outside of me. Okay, so let's keep going. For example, and let me bring you back into the sentence before that, because we took a minute there. That these unconscious emotional patterns can manifest externally, outside of us, and seem like they're happening just to us. Okay, for example, I've observed that people who carry a lot of anger inside without being aware of it and without expressing it are more likely to be attacked, verbally or even physically, by other angry people, and often for no apparent reason. Now, listen to that idea there. It's someone who carries around an angry consciousness that they're not expressing maybe outwardly, but they just are kind of hostily carrying all these negative emotions within them, there is a likelihood, according to the author, that they become attacked by other angry people. So we know that that's not strange to us at Spirit and Truth Sanctuary. That is what we call the law of attraction, vibration. The universe is made up of, it works on vibration, as within, so without. We would say it this way. My mother used to say, birds of a feather flock together. And so people of negative consciousness find each other. People of higher vibration seem to find each other. Anger finds each other. Offended people find each other. Misery loves company. That's another way to say it. I choose to say it this way. I'm a magnet, and on one side of my magnet, I'm attracting the things that I want in my life. The other part of the magnet, when I flip it over, is repelling things away from me. I want to live in a high vibration. I want to be around people of high vibration, joy and peace and righteousness, and people who know how to enjoy life and know that everything in our life is spiritual, from our hands lifted in worship to laughter over dinner. It's all good and it's all God. Those are the people that I'm wanting to attract to myself. People who are always in a negative mood, always see the glass half empty. I hope that my magnetism is pushing that type of consciousness away from me. They have people who believe this, have a strong emanation of anger that certain people pick up subliminally, and that triggers their own latent anger. So the anger in people attracts anger. The judgmentalism attracts judgment. It is a law of attraction. Peace attracts peace. Joy attracts joy. We all understand those laws. Okay. An emotion usually represents an amplified and energized thought pattern. And because of its often overpowering energetic charge, it is not easy initially to stay present, even present enough to be able to watch it. It wants to take you over, and it usually succeeds, unless there is enough presence in you, unless you're aware of this process that's happening in the mind. Okay. If you are pulled into unconscious identification with the emotion through the lack of presence, which is normal, the emotion temporarily becomes you. You become the anger. You become the rage. You become the jealousy. You become the spirit of lack. You become all of these lower or even higher emotions. You can become that thing because it's kind of unconsciously taking you over, and now you're identifying yourself as that. Unaware of thoughts, unconsciously, watch this, when we're unaware of our thoughts, they unconsciously create our personality, how we show up in the world. Our friends, our thoughts create our experience of life. I had an experience, probably 25 years ago. You know you're feeling old when you say something, you tell a story from 25 years ago, but I was out of town with a group of people, and we were all there kind of for like a leadership retreat, and we wanted to go grab some food and then come back and start the meeting process. And one of the people in our group of 15 or 20 couldn't find keys, didn't bring the right makeup, and just, we were all laughing, brought all that energy into it. Okay, all right, well, let's go here to eat. I don't want to eat there. Finally got to the place. Okay, in order for us to have a good time, we want you to get happy, because we're stuck here in the same place. You tell us where you want to eat, what time you want to meet. And so we kind of catered. We enabled her bad behavior. But after that session was over, most of us decided privately, if we take another leadership retreat, we probably won't invite this person. Our energy really repelled this individual away from us. Doesn't mean that it's right or wrong. That's how energy works. And so I tell people a lot of times, it is not heartless to put someone off your ship, especially if they're you're going to cause shipwreck. Okay, when you look at the story of Jonah, who was on a ship full of workers and shipmen, other men, a storm came about, and Jonah knew this. I'm the reason that this storm is here. Put me off the boat, and you guys will get where you're going. So the people on the boat were a little nervous. They didn't want to put Jonah off the boat. They felt compassion or empathy, and I get it. I'm one of the most compassionate people you'll ever meet. But they had to put Jonah off the boat, and watch this. When Jonah got off the boat survived and got to its destination, and Jonah, the person that has been put off the boat, now will get to his destination. Sometimes we're just not meant to be on each other's boats. And you may have some people on your boat now that are bringing a negative energy, a negative consciousness. Sometimes those people are blood related, and you don't necessarily put them off the boat, but you you find buffers and ways to have a boundary set between you with all that, and that's okay too. Even people that we love as blood, our blood kin, sometimes we have to put a little distance between so that we can create the life that we want to experience. And I know some grown adults are saying amen to that right there. Okay, keep coming. Often a vicious cycle builds up between your thinking and the emotion, or they feed each other. The thought pattern creates a magnified reflection of itself in the form of an emotion. And the vibrational frequency of the emotion keeps feeding the original thought pattern. Look at that. They just go back and forth. So I have the thought creates an emotion. The emotion continues to feed the thought. I have the thought again. Now the emotion. And it becomes a vicious cycle or circle of this kind of thing that we can't get ourselves out of. The thought creates the emotion feeds the thought creates the emotion again. Yes, we get that. Some of us may be able to identify that in our own lives. By dwelling mentally on the situation or event or the person that is the perceived cause of the emotion, the thought feeds energy to the emotion, which in turn energizes the thought pattern, and so on. And so all of us can hopefully relate to that. Whether it's seeing a person that has caused you harm, could be an ex-spouse of some sort, could have been somebody that you considered an enemy. But let's take it away from a person or an enemy, and even an event, and let's see the process of how the observer is supposed to watch the thinker thinking the thought. Okay, so I have a thought, it creates an emotion. That emotion continues to feed that thought, that continues to feed that emotion. And so at some point I have to be aware I am in an endless cycle of harming myself. And so I've got to be able to rise above, think a new thought, then hopefully experience a better emotion that brings about, that continues to feed. So if this pattern works in a negative way, it also will work in a positive way. I'm thinking positive thoughts, I'm experiencing positive emotions. Oh, I love this emotion. Let's continue to think that thought. It will absolutely work both ways. One of the main tasks of the mind is to fight or remove emotional pain, which is one of the reasons for its incessant activity. But all it can ever achieve, watch this, is to cover pain up temporarily. Keep coming. In fact, the harder the mind struggles to get rid of pain, the greater the pain becomes. Ain't that some shift? That's difficult. The harder I don't want to think about this, the more I think about it. And so we say a lot, what you resist, persist. What you fight, you ignite or incite. The issue becomes the idol. The mind becomes the manifestation. And so the harder I try not to think negative thoughts, the more they come, the more the emotion comes. And so how do we get out of that thought pattern? Here's what I have learned to try to live by and help other people see the truth of this, is to, when something comes up, look at it. Okay? Don't deny that it's there. Don't try not to think it. But as Tolle says, look at it, but try not to put a judgment on it. Just look at it. Whether it's where I've been in counseling sessions with couples who've come to sit with me, one of the main things I always say to them is just look at it right now. Don't put a judgment on it. Don't decide what you're going to do, what you're not going to do. Is it right? Is it wrong? Just look at it. Don't deny it's there. And then eventually, as you separate yourself from the event, you begin to gain a little bit more understanding of the event that helps you to think a higher thought, to experience a higher emotion. Okay. The mind can never find the solution, nor can it afford to allow you to find the solution, because it is itself an intrinsic part of the problem. So my mind's playing tricks on me. Everybody remember that old rap song? Okay. Here it is. Imagine a chief of police trying to find an arsonist when the arsonist is the chief of police himself. We have met the enemy, and it is us. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. How many other quotes could we use explaining that? You will not be free of pain until you cease to derive your sense of self from identification with the mind. Wow, which is to say from the ego. So, I am not my mind. I am not my thoughts. I'm the observer. And so, what does that mean? Let's put it in a biblical context. Okay. Let us make man in our image and in our likeness. Okay. And in this creating of man, we're going to give man a divine capacity. That means man is created, man is creative, and man is creating. We say it this way at Spirit and Truth. I'm created by God, I'm creative like God, and I'm creating as a God. Okay? It doesn't, at this point, hear me, it doesn't matter what I'm creating from my thoughts. What matters is that I have an awareness that I have this capacity. And so once I separate myself from what I've created, from the mind, from the thought patterns, whether it's doctrines, theologies, the Bible, the Bhagavad Gita, the Quran, the Notebook, or Anger, What a Man Wants, or Steve Harvey's book, Teaching Women How to Look Through a Man, or just like Oprah said, whatever all these things are, it is not about the thought at this point. It is about the recognition that the thoughts are not you, that you thinking the thoughts are not you, that you are the observer, that this creative thing can happen. You're the observer of the process. Now I can begin to navigate how I can manipulate or maneuver the thinker to think the thoughts that want to create the life that I want to experience. The mind is then toppled from its place of power, and being reveals itself as your true nature. Woo! So I am not a human doing, I'm a spiritual being. We hear that all the time. If you really want to know your mind, the body will always give you a truthful reflection. So look at the emotion, or rather feel it in your body. If there is an apparent conflict between them, the thought will be the lie, and the emotion will be the truth. Can you feel that? The thought will be the lie, so the emotion is just a reaction to the mind. So Tolle is saying, lean more to the emotion or the reaction than to the initial thought. Because the thought, even if it's a lie, can create an accurate emotion inside of you. Okay, the emotion is just there to tell you, hey, the emotion is truth, but point it back to the thought. What thought is causing this emotion is the way we're seeing that. Okay. Not the ultimate truth, okay, of who you are, but relative truth of your state of mind at that time. So we're admitting here, the thought is not the truth. The emotion is not even necessarily the truth. It's just a system of a way of seeing how can I backtrack how I got to this place? Why am I so defensive? Why am I so reactionary? Why am I insecure? Why do I feel loneliness or isolation? Okay, none of these feelings are the truth. They're just pointing you, what are the thoughts that created this emotion, that created your life experience? Okay. Conflict between surface thoughts and unconscious mental processes is certainly common. You may not yet be able to bring your unconscious mind activity into awareness as thoughts, but it will always be reflected in the body as an emotion. And of this, you can become aware. So it's kind of repeating what we just said. It may be a process of awareness, but we can start by being conscious of what's happening in our bodies. Watch this. Sometimes it's not even just the heart racing, being tense. Sometimes you can just be aware of your body language. What's happening in your body language right now? And is that how you want to show up? Is that how you want to both experience yourself? And is that how you want people around you to experience you? What is happening in your emotion? I'm sweating. I'm tense. I'm nervous. I'm overreacting. Okay, none of those things are necessarily the truth. That's just an awareness of what is happening in my body. Let's track back to the thought that produces that. Now let's go even further to the observer who's watching the thinker, having the thought that's creating the emotion that's affecting the body. What a powerful vision at the divine creative process. So watching emotion is, in this way, is basically the same as listening to or watching a thought, which we described earlier. The only difference is that while a thought is in your head, okay, an emotion has a strong physical component, and so is primarily felt in the body. That is the process of manifestation. Okay, the thought manifests itself in the body. and then the body begins to manifest that as your life experience. You can then allow the emotion to be there without being controlled by it. Whew, yes, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling the emotion, but I'm being aware of it, but I'm not controlled by it because I know where this emotion comes from. It comes from a thought. And so I'm backtracking, so I'm no longer controlled by the emotion or even by the thought. You are no longer the emotion, you are the watcher, the observing presence. If you practice this, all that is if you practice this, all that is unconscious in you will be brought into the light of consciousness. I was reminded today when I read that sentence, Jesus said this, be angry, but don't sin. Can you imagine philosophically saying that to the religious literal minds of his day who wanted to talk about how many times you wash your hands, the length of your robe, you can't go into the tabernacle of Moses with a defect in your sight, you can't sweat, you can't plant two crops in one field. I mean, how far are we getting? You can't wear two different fabrics at the same time. And so Jesus says, how about this, guys? I'm about to show you the difference between thought and emotion. And they're going, we don't want to talk about that. We want to talk about specific literal laws. That's how we want to stay in this lower vibration of consciousness. We want to talk about makeup and earrings or, outward adornment, or should a woman wear pants, or can I go to the movies? Can I drink a little bit of wine? We want to talk about those things, Jesus. Jesus said, no. I'm going to show you the difference in your thoughts and your emotions. Be angry, have the thought, but don't sin. Okay? Be aware of the thoughts, don't act on the thoughts. Beautiful way that Jesus it shows us how to control our inability at times to slip into an unconscious awareness or unconsciousness. Make it a habit, keep coming, to ask yourself, what's going on inside me at this moment? That question will point you in the right direction, but don't analyze, just watch. We could substitute the word that don't judge it, don't condemn it, don't analyze the emotion or the thought, just watch it for now. Focus your attention within, feel the energy of the emotion. If there is no emotion present, take your attention more deeply into the energy, to the inner energy field of your body. It is the doorway into being or into your being. All right. That's a lot. Can you imagine where we've been tonight? Let's backtrack this amazing thought progression that we're getting. Okay, so we've got a manifestation, okay, that comes from an emotion, that comes from a thought, that comes from a thinker, that comes from an observer of the whole process. Wow. I don't know if you're feeling this spiral dynamic that's happening right here. What are we doing tonight? We're becoming aware of our divine creative capacity. We're aware that we are creative beings as we read this philosophical book by Eckhart Tolle. Okay, anybody have a comment to share or want to start a discussion tonight?
Richard said early, the emotional pattern of fear can often lead to or cause pain and disease.
Yep. Disease. Isn't that interesting, Richard, that the word disease, we just say, oh, diseases, cancer, diabetes, blood pressure, leukemia, whatever the disease is, but we don't take time to really look at that word. It is a dis-ease. A dis-ease in the mind can manifest itself into the body. And so think about how a negative thought affects your emotions that causes your body to react a certain way. Now, a lifetime of that way of thinking, how does that really affect us on a cellular level? And so when Scripture says this, as a man thinks in his heart, suke or soul, as a man thinks in his mind, that's who he is. And so then Jesus goes further and says, not only as a man thinks in his heart, so is he, but I am encouraging you, don't eat the bread of the miser. What does that mean? Don't eat the bread of the miser. A miser is somebody who hoards up all their money, is afraid to spend any money, give any money, invest any money in something else. And so he eats his bread, but he's even nervous of how much bread to eat because he wants to save it all for a famine or a plague. And Jesus said, look, beware, don't eat the bread of the miser, because that level of poverty mentality will begin to infect your mind, your body, and then you'll manifest poverty around you. And so When I give, when I pay a bill, when I pay my tithe on Sunday mornings or give an offering on Sunday mornings, I'm saying to the universe, this is coming to me and through me. I am not eating the bread of the miser. I am a vessel where abundance flows to and through. I put that energy out to the universe. And so not only do I put the seed in the ground, I water it with fertilizer saying, I am not giving because I have to or because the Bible commanded me to give. Yes, I understand Scripture and that the tithe belongs to the Lord, but that is not why I'm giving. I'm giving because I understand the laws of giving. As I give, I become a vessel that money flows to me and through me, and I'm not creating a level of dis-ease, even as it concerns money. Anything else? Thank you, Richard. Beautiful.
Yeah, LaDonna shared, I never thought about it that way, but that's so true. Lower vibration serves as a distraction from working on yourself.
Wow. Yeah. And so, like LaDonna said, the advice for Tolle that Tolle gave us, I say it at Spirit and Truth about using filters. Just let the Holy Spirit speak to you without a filter of right, wrong, my past, how I grew up in church, or I didn't grow up in church, or I grew up in the South, I grew up in the North, I grew up in another country. Can Spirit speak to us without filters? That's kind of the way Tolle says, just look at it. Don't judge it. Don't analyze it. Just be in the awareness that the thought is happening. And so, as LaDonna said, that lower vibration of having to put a judgment on it is kind of what keeps us there, instead of being in the awareness and then being able to eventually shift the thoughts.
Terry shared, I have learned that when I am experiencing a negative emotion such as sadness, disappointment, loneliness, etc., I first acknowledge what I am feeling. I verbalize it to God as well as to a trusted friend, perhaps. I have learned to embrace the emotion first. Then I can think new thoughts, read something that encourages me, and gain peace again. Wow.
So probably the worst thing that would, make sure that those emotions and that the manifestation of our life continues is denying that it's there at all, that it's even there. And so that is a big step for us to say, I am feeling this. I am feeling this emotion, and I can act like I'm not, or I can, I can live in my Christian denial and, put on my church face, or, act like but it is happening, and it's here for a reason. So instead of denying that it's there, instead of judging it's there, beginning to go back and backtrack that creative process. Where's the thought coming from that's creating the emotion, and how can I observe the thinker and get into a different consciousness that creates something differently. Thank you. Beautiful, Terry.
Bobby shared, everything starts with a thought as you watch your emotions manifest themselves into either confusion, attracting anger, or calmness and peace of mind generates love. Think on a higher vibration. Act as an overseer of your mind. Keep your emotions in check and on a higher plane, and don't judge yourself.
That's good, Bobby. An overseer of your thoughts and emotions. I'll say this, and I'm not trying to flatter or just throw out manipulative praise. All of my interactions with Bobby have been that. Every time we talk, she says something, she giggles, we laugh about something, oh, look at Micah, he's so handsome, then she giggles about it. Literally lives in joy, lives in laughter, lives in that. And so it infects her body with joy. It comes out onto her grandchildren and those around her. Yeah, that's being an overseer of your thoughts. And part of being that overseer is being an overseer of who you allow to be around you, who you allow to get in that circle. And so one thing that I'll show you in this, I don't want to teach this as a caste system tonight. Let me just throw it out as food for thought. Okay, Jesus, who is my master teacher. There are many very, very powerful teachers, and I respect and want to learn from all of them. But my connection to Source is initially through Jesus. And then Jesus introduced me to sheep of other pastures and other ways of thinking. I get that. But my main source of wisdom has come from the teachings in the Gospels and the Bible. And so Jesus not only taught this, but he lived it where we could see it. And so Jesus had different levels of groups of people that he allowed to be around him. Okay. And so if you'll see this, Jesus was around the multitude at times, and sometimes that was 1,000 people, sometimes it was 5,000 or 10,000 people. Okay. Then he had what was the 70, a smaller group than the multitude, but not really quite the people that he spent all of his time with. But the 70 were people who the 12 disciples said, Jesus, I have 4 or 5 people who are listening and hungry for what you're teaching. Okay, we're going to include them. The day that Jesus was teaching in the house, and his mother came and she couldn't get in the house, and Peter came and said, Jesus, your mother needs you. She needs your attention. And he looked at Peter and said, who is my mother? Who is my father? He was saying, okay, that was a scenario where he was in a larger space with the 70. Okay, and so that's when they cut a hole in the roof and lowered the lame man down to him, and he saw the faith and healed the man. But that was the 70. Okay, there were other times when Jesus was just with the 12. He was in the boat, in the ship with the 12. He was in the 12 in the Garden of Gethsemane. Okay, he traveled to and fro with the 12 many, many times. Okay, fishing with the 12, all those things. Cooked breakfast for the 12. But then there were times when he was only with 3. He was only with Peter, James, and John. And those were kind of called the sons of thunder, his inner circle. He was on the Mount of Transfiguration with those 3. Okay, he was on the road to Emmaus, and so you can see that Jesus had a larger group that he was around, then a little bit more select group of 70 people, then a group of 12, then a group of 3. Okay, let's go further, and people don't like to talk about this. Then Jesus had one. He had one person that was the absolute closest to him, and that was Mary of Magdala, Mary Magdalene. And all the scholars throughout the years know how theologians and writers have tried to paint her as a prostitute and as a woman of the night, but really the truth is that's not who she was. That's how they painted her, because they didn't want the closeness of her and Jesus to in any way infringe on his divinity. That there's some way that Mary Magdalene could have taken away from the awesomeness of who Jesus was or is, but he was the closest to Mary Magdalene, and we see that as he would literally leave the disciples and say, I can't be around you guys anymore. I'm going to Lazarus's house. Lazarus was Mary's brother. Lazarus had a sister also, Mary's sister Martha, who would cook and clean and make sure Jesus, but his intimate, private, soulish, and spiritual self, sometimes he only showed that to one person. And so that's okay in your life. There may be people that you have a really strong connection with, but you maybe can't trust them with everything. And you can't trust them as you're walking through a sickness or walking through a difficulty, or really trust that their counsel is coming from a place of pure love and pure spiritual wisdom. Then there's other people that you really, really feel close to, you would trust your life with, but they don't maybe stay on that vibration, so you can't be around them all the time. And then there are some people that you just know when you connect with that person, you are on the same vibration, you are of the same mind, you are in the same wavelength, and that person is everything to you. And that's okay too. And so all of us have different levels of people that we vibrate with, and there's nothing wrong with that. And so we hope tonight that we are all at least vibrating together on this level of awakening, being aware of the process tonight, that I have a manifestation that comes from an emotion, that comes from a thought, that comes from the thinker, but I am none of those things. I am the observer of this process. And as I observe, I can bring now every thought into captivity and produce and manifest the world that I want. I think we have another comment.
Fred Hayes shared, and I can so identify with this, sometimes carrying pain from the past causes emotional responses in life. I'm learning to observe the emotion and not to react.
Wow. I heard, Fred, it's interesting you brought that up. I heard Bishop Jakes was doing a teaching years ago on marriage, and he was talking about divorce and remarriage. And he was saying that he had counseled with a woman and a man, and they had come in to see him, and they had gotten into an argument before they went to bed, and the woman unconsciously called her new husband her last husband's name. Okay, and that's never a good thing. And it can be better or worse. But what was revealed there was that she was still living in the past of what had happened with a former spouse. Okay, possibly even taking that past and creating in her new relationship something that she brought out of the past. unconsciously. And so, what do we bring from our past that affects our present and our future? What are the hurts that we refuse to get over with? And I think all of us would like to feel that we're completely free of the hurt of the past. That's not really true. All of us carry some of it. And so instead of being in denial of the hurt from our past, be aware of it. Be the watcher. Be the observer of how it's affecting you. Because it's going to come up. Some of that stuff is going to come up. But when it comes up, does it send you into a spiral that creates the emotion, that creates the new, again, that same old manifestation over? Or are you aware enough to say, okay, the thought is here. I feel the emotion of it, but I'm not going to live in it. It's there. I know where it comes from. The Spirit has given me victory over that. I choose not to stay in that thing any longer. And so when somebody says to us, get over it, that's difficult. Just get over it. Well, it's personal. We all personalize the things that happened to us. But when we are able to step out of that process and see where this thing comes from, we're able not only to see the thought process and change the thought process that creates our life, we're also able, listen to this, to see the thought processes of others who may have inflicted pain on us. So in that moment, we give thanks. God, thank you. The person who inflicted this pain on me was not even aware enough to know the thoughts they were thinking that hurt me, that manifested as abuse or neglect or as some type of hurt that they inflicted on my life. And so I give thanks, God, that I'm aware that I'm a creative being thinking thoughts that create my life. And now I'm able to give forgiveness to the person that was not aware of their thought processes because they may still be creating hurt and pain and surrounding themselves with that vibration. God, thank you that I'm not in that anymore. I'm the creative being able to see this thought process and pattern. So we give thanks in everything, for this is the will of God concerning us in Christ Jesus. I want to give you an affirmation, and then we're going to give a few shouts out tonight to everybody. I'm going to read it first, and then I think Brandy will bring it up for us. It just says, this week I will be aware of my thoughts, my emotions, and what is going on in my body. I'm open to seeing and shifting negative thought patterns that affect my body. There is a kingdom within me, and tonight I will take dominion of my inner kingdom. Remember, not judging it immediately, just being aware that there is an inner kingdom, that this thing is happening within us. Okay, let's all read this out loud together. This week, I will be aware of my thoughts, my emotions, and what is going on in my body. I am open to seeing and shifting negative thought patterns that affect my body. There is a kingdom within me, and tonight I will take dominion of my inner kingdom. Whew. Sometimes we want to take dominion of all the kingdoms outside of us. And Jesus says, guys, the kingdom is not out there. The kingdom is within. And so as Gandhi said, if you want to see a change in the world, be the change. Change your thought patterns. Change the way you look at the way you think about things. And so all that is a powerful process for us to get tonight. I want to give some shouts out to all the beautiful people joining us tonight. Oh my goodness, look at all these people. Miss Esther, Randy, Emma, Roberta, and Lenora. And it's the Sauce Man back again tonight. Alita, Fred and Mary, Myrna, Sheila, Pastor LaDonna, Pastor Don, Dr. Elijah is on tonight, Rosaline, Amy, Stacy, Yvette, Gloria, Virgie, Catherine, Tamara, another Kathy, beautiful, Elaine, Susan, Denisha, Kimba. Look at Miss Kimba connecting tonight. It's the first time I've seen your name. Hey, Miss Kimba. Ivy and Margie, we're still knowing that Ivy is doing great. His body's feeling good. Miss Megan, yeah, we miss you, Miss Megan. Sheila, Carol, Betsy, Glenna, Miss Bobby, Anita, Pastor Gloria, Pastor Curtis, hey, my friend. Dr. Sharonda, I'm so proud. She's going to be able to speak some truth to power in a few days. Look at God open those doors. Sherby, Cynthia, Laverne, Callie, Lawana, Courtney, Pastor Cassius, Caroline, Susan, Terry, Jennifer, Maud, Terry, Jonathan, Ben and Vicky, and also Jonathan Ansa. Wow, thank you guys for joining us tonight. I hope that you guys are connecting with us. It feels like you are. And I want to leave you just with one encouragement tonight. Sometimes when we say that something is bad, or we put that label on it, it has a way of hanging around longer. And whether it's with addictive chemical addiction, whether it's emotional addiction, sometimes it's a thought, addictions of thought. And so when we label them as bad or resist it, it just continues to show up. I like to give the example when Jesus looked at Judas and said, "What you must do, do quickly." He stepped forward into, if this process of purifying is going to happen, I step toward it. Then look at Jesus in the garden. He goes to the garden to pray. The soldiers come and say, "Where's Jesus?" Jesus steps forward again. I'm the person that you're looking for. An amazingly difficult process of him going from Jesus, the Son of Man, to Jesus, the Christ, or the Son of God. And so he knew that there was going to be some things he had to look at. He knew that when he was driven by spirit into the wilderness with the devil, that he had to look at his lower nature so that the higher nature could completely take over. And so this week, if you're thinking negative thoughts, if you're thinking what you think are bad thoughts or lower vibration, don't get stuck in being condemned for thinking that way, or, goodness, I'm trying not to think these thoughts. I want to think hard. Don't condemn yourself. Don't give any judgment to it. Just be in the awareness of it. Step toward that thought, see it, and then see the emotion it produces, see what it produces in your life. Eventually, as you know that you are not the thought, you are not even the emotion, you are the observer of the process, you will be able to know that you're separate from that. And you can then begin the process of changing it. And so we love you guys. We miss you. We look forward to seeing you again on Sunday morning.
So many
at
thank
10
yous
a.m.
and love yous and great
Oh.
teaching, and how much people are loving it,
I
enjoying
love it.
everybody
I
just
love
chiming
it.
in and saying thank you, Pastor. They
I'm loving this teaching. I really believe, you talk about people being delivered from addictions or their bodies being healed. I believe these are healing moments for us. Is healing the way that we perceive our minds, healing the way that we've had negative thoughts, negative emotions. All of us have those negative images in our mind. We are going through in this book. It is called The Power of Now, and we're going to stay in the present. But we really are going through a mental healing process that will produce healing not just in our bodies, in our relationships, in our families, in the way that we experience this life. And so I'm so glad you're picking up on this spirit, this vibe. I'm loving these moments together. And until we see each other again, we're going to connect with you again on Sunday morning. And we look forward to seeing you. Then go in peace. May God bless you.